Lauri Markkanen scores a career high tonight against the Phoenix Suns in Salt Lake City. 50-plus points, impressive performance. The Jazz get a win. Let's talk about it, and let's hear from Walker Kessler what he thinks about playing together and playing for each other. And this is an interview that took place after the first game against the Clippers.
Is that the energy that you guys want to have for 82?
No question. Yeah. That was fun. That was fun all around. 38 assists. I think we led in rebounds for our team. We flew around, played great defense. It was a lot of fun. And I think everyone, had a lot of fun. It's a fun way to play. Celebrate each other, and that kind of energy is contagious. So, just a lot of fun.
What stood out about the defensive performance, especially?
Yeah, we were just flying around. We were flying around. We were in the right spots at the right time. We did a great job of covering the low man. Just a lot of fun. Did a great job on the glass. Keeping those guys, because a lot of those guys are great crashers. Communicated really well, talked really well. So it was really nice to see it all come together.
Jazz Smack, NBA and Utah Jazz basketball.
So that was Walker talking about, after that first game against the Clippers, talking about the importance of playing together and playing for each other, especially on the defensive end when he's talking about flying around on defense, crashing the boards, keeping the offensive rebounders off the boards. And that's, I think, one of the themes for this year for the Jazz to improve as a team. I think it's important to keep that in mind and listen to what Walker is saying here, and to play for each other. I think that needs to be a central theme by Hardy. I think he has preached that, but he needs to hold everybody to account equally, not some guys more, some guys less. He needs to treat everybody roughly the same in terms of what he expects from them on the floor and not allow people to slide. So tonight, in tonight's game, what we saw against the Phoenix Suns, the Jazz got 28 offensive rebounds. On the other hand, Phoenix got 18 offensive rebounds. So the Jazz ended up with 2 more field goal attempts than the Suns, and turnovers are a factor into that, and the number of free throws you shoot is factored into that. But even with the Jazz great offensive rebounding numbers, they only ended up with 2 more field goal attempts than the Phoenix Suns because they allowed so many offensive rebounds. So my point is the Jazz need to do a better job of keeping guys off the boards, like what Walker was talking about here, and they need to collectively rebound, and they need to box guys out as well. But overall, fantastic game. I'm super pleased that the Jazz put forth effort and were able to sustain some effort overall, and to see Lauri kind of get back on track, scoring the basketball like we know he's capable of doing at a fairly high efficiency rate. That's wonderful to see as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think the team play this year has been great. Let's face it, we could be 3-0. We lost at the end in Sacramento, but we played really good team ball. Doesn't mean that we don't have weaknesses. Doesn't mean that we haven't had an easy schedule, because we have. But let's face it. It's looking good so far, and they're playing for one another. And I have to give, even though I hate to do it, I have to give Will Harding credit, because I think he has instilled some things in these guys that they're playing together, they're playing as a team, and that's really encouraging. So I like that. Now, there were some great individual performances tonight. There were some other things like we could focus on, but let's give them credit. It was an exciting game. It went into overtime. They hung in there, and they won the game. And that's really important. They executed down the end, and they executed against one of the best players in the game in Devin Booker. And, even though Phoenix overall didn't have its team there, they still had Devin Booker. And Devin Booker has killed us year after year in these situations, and he did tonight.
Yeah, he didn't. Devin did not have a great night. He ended up scoring a lot of points, but overall, he never really, you just never got the sense that he was in control of anything offensively throughout this game. It was, he ended up with a lot of points, but it was kind of a mediocre performance overall where he didn't really dictate winning or losing for Phoenix. It was kind of in the hands of other players. So yes, the missing Dylan Brooks. Dylan Brooks is obviously the leader of that defense. Dylan Brooks was the leader of Houston's defense, and that's certainly going to transfer over to the Phoenix Suns. So that's a major loss for Phoenix. So yes, not playing with a shortened roster certainly aided the Jazz tonight, but already we're seeing throughout this young NBA season, we're seeing so many guys miss games already with these long injury lists. I mean, it's wild how many guys are already on the injury list this season in the NBA, and that continues forward. I mean, that certainly is the case with the Jazz as well. I mean, Isaiah Collier is yet to play. I mean, Luke has missed time. I mean, there's just like all sorts of guys who are missing time already. So it's kind of wild to actually watch this play out league-wide.
Yeah, and you pointed out, and you told me this in the offseason, how important you think Dylan Brooks is to a team. And let me ask you this. Have you checked box scores tonight? I don't want to tell you any scores.
No, I was trying to avoid because I was going to try and go back and watch the OKC game.
Okay, so I won't tell you any, but I'll tell you this: Dylan Brooks is a very important guy on every team that he plays for, and and I think that when he was on Memphis, he was instrumental. When he was on Houston, he was instrumental. When he's on Phoenix, he was instrumental. So you need a guy like that on your team. I mean, you need Steven Adams, you need a Dylan Brooks, and those guys are always underrated. You need what's his name? What's the guys in Oklahoma City? The off guard that we both like.
Caruso.
No, not Caruso. The guy that starts on their team. Well, it'll come to me. Dort. Yeah, Dort. I mean, you need a Dort. You need those guys on your team, and it's amazing as you look at some of these guys. You're like, look, that guy's not the star. He's not, but he may be as important as one of the star players on the team for how they play together. So I agree with you about Dylan Brooks. The other thing I find interesting about Phoenix is Mark Williams doesn't start. Why do you think that is? Mark Williams put up some really good numbers tonight. I don't really get it. You look at their starting lineup, and it's not like he's bumping off a good. There's a good player starting over him. I don't really get it on that team. So, but not our problem. We're worrying about the Jazz.
Yeah, quite frankly, I still don't understand why the Lakers voided that trade, because I'd rather have Mark Williams than Ayton, in all honesty, on that team.
And the money.
I'd rather. I mean, I am not a fan of Ayton, so going out and getting Ayton in the offseason and avoiding that trade to get Mark. I mean, Mark Williams may have injury issues, but Ayton's just not a good player, and he's been a kind of a problem where he's been. So, I don't understand the whole Mark Williams thing. I don't know what goes on in practice. I don't know what goes on behind the scenes with him specifically. And so I don't get that. But anyway, he in his time tonight, he played reasonably well. He had a positive impact for the Phoenix Suns. Without him, that game doesn't get to overtime, certainly. There's no way. I mean, Phoenix loses that game in regulation without Mark Williams.
Yeah, he can play ball. I agree with you. He's had injury history. No, there's no question about that. I don't know what he makes, but 9 for 14, 7 for 9 for the free throw line, 11 rebounds, 2 steals. Not shabby. When he plays, not shabby at all. The guy can play basketball. And honestly, I think Charlotte's missing him this year, just to be very frank about it. So, and Nurkic, the guy we got for nothing, they're missing. So, but anyhow, that's Phoenix Suns. That's not who we're here to talk about. So let's talk about our guys.
Yeah. So Lauri's off to a really good start this year. Again, in terms of numbers, he put up a ton of points tonight, obviously. I think that, and you can kind of see Will Hardy's, I mean, this is kind of a 2-in-1 topic, but you can kind of see Will Hardy's already his his playing minutes priorities, his development priorities, his number one development priorities of all the young guys is clearly Keyonte George number one and probably ace number two. And how Walker fits into that is what you consider him a young or old player. I mean, he's obviously, he has a year on Keyonte, but of all the guys that the Jazz have drafted, Walker wasn't one of those. Keyonte seems to be the priority. And going into the season, you could kind of maybe guess that would be the case based on the previous two seasons, but I'm shocked that he played over 40 minutes tonight. I mean, it's an overtime game, but that's just a lot of minutes for Keyonte George. And once Keyonte got those fouls, his aggressiveness on defense, I mean, he became a matador at times where he was just holding up his hands and watching guys blow by him. So Coach Hardy needs to address that. I mean, Bryce screwed up on defense in like the first half, and he should have stayed out on a three. He went into the lane to defend. The guy got the person he was defending got a really open 3-pointer. So Bryce got yanked after that and never really got back into the game in any sort of meaningful way. But Hardy needs to hold all of those players to that same type of standard, and he can't let guys slide because everybody else on this team can see when he's treating people differently. I mean, it's obvious, and that still is something that Hardy needs to address in himself because it's still clearly not the same for all the players.
Yeah, it's interesting is that Lauri got 45 minutes tonight in an overtime game and was, let's face it, the best player on the floor. I mean, Lauri was awesome tonight. I mean, he did everything. He rebounded, he shot the ball well. His free throws were unbelievable, right? I mean, he was great. So there's no question Lauri should have had the most minutes. Walker was also fantastic, right? I mean, Walker with his offensive rebounds was great. But the second most minutes on the Jazz was Keyonte George when Walter Clayton has been playing great basketball. Now, his basketball was not as good tonight, but we all have like off nights, right? I mean, some nights the ball just doesn't go in the same way. But he gave him 43 minutes, and we've seen that for 3 years now. I mean, let's face it, until he was benched and put on the second unit last year, but he still got more minutes than Sexton, right? So it's always been the case. I can't really explain it. And I'm not saying Keyonte had a terrible game tonight. I'm not saying that. But you have to think about who are the best players on the team and who do we want to develop. And last year, Bryce was just getting DNPs. Like 4 or 5 games in a row, he was getting DNPs. This guy can play. Flip it took him forever to get any playing time at all. We knew he could play. But for whatever reason, Keyonte George is kind of like the golden child and always getting it. And I shouldn't call him a child. I mean, he's the golden boy in the sense that he always gets it. So I can't really explain it. I don't know what the connection is between the two of them, but he seems to gets opportunities that no one else gets on this basketball team.
Yeah, I think that's the problem. I mean, Keyonte had a fine game. He played fine tonight. He didn't have a spectacular game, but he didn't have a terrible game either. But you just got to hold the guys to the same standard. That's my frustration with it, and I see it happen, and it's like, well, because the guys on the bench have got to see that as well and go, this is just ridiculous. So that's my only complaint with it, with how he's treating the different guys. Yes, some guys need to be encouraged in some ways and some guys need to be encouraged in other ways. But if you hold guys to different standards, that's when the problems come into play. So I hope that kind of changes and that everybody, especially on the defensive end, is held to the same standards. And if somebody's dogging it, I mean, even if Keyonte fouls out, I would rather him continue to play defense and play defense hard, because it's not about the wins and losses right now. It's about teaching good habits, and you just can't you can't play matador defense down the stretch of a game when a game is tight. If you foul out, you foul out. Keyonte's not so important to the success of the team that he can just go, well, my offense is so important that I can play no defense to make sure that I don't get called for a foul. Like I'm not going to ever buy into that one.
Well, let me just say one more point on that until we move off of it, is that I'm sure that Kobe, Jordan, LeBron had special favors too. But you know something? Everybody on the court, including their own teammates and the opposing players, know that they're the best players. They are so much better than everybody else. Okay, they get the special rules because of that. Everybody knows that. Now, I wish no one got special rules, but the reality in life that happens. Keyonte's not that guy. Could he become that guy? I don't know, but he's certainly not that guy now. So there's no reason that he has special treatment. But it's. Do you think it's going to change? I don't with Hardy. And like you said, he didn't have a bad game tonight. He had a good game. He still can't hit a 3-point ball. We know that 3 games in a row now. He's under 20%, but he had a good game. He wasn't the best player on the court in any sense, but he had a good game. He's playing better. I'll give Keyonte credit for that. He's playing better this year than he did. But he's still, I don't know. I'm not sure he's an NBA rotation player yet.
Yeah.
Based upon performances this year, he's not an NBA rotation player.
Yeah. He's still, through 3 games, he's 4 for 22 from 3. And that's obviously highly problematic for somebody that's playing his position. Now Walt's 3-point percentage, I don't know what it is. It's really bad too. But then again, Walt doesn't have 2 NBA seasons under his belt to try and get comfortable. So we'll see what happens with that. But moving back to Lauri, I think Lauri's trending, and if his usage continues to be high and he continues to play in each of these games, and he doesn't sit when he's healthy and all of that, he's going to be in line. The All-Star designation to me is just a designation. I haven't watched the All-Star game in my entire adult life. And I suspect that most of the people listening to us on this podcast, the vast majority don't watch the All-Star game because it's basically an unwatchable weekend. It's catered to the players, for the players, and the fans have just been thrown under the bus, decades ago. It's been awful. But as a designation, as a recognition of strong play to be named to the All-Star team, I think it's relevant for Lauri, certainly, and I think Lauri is going to be one of those guys that's in line. He's never going to get a starter. He's not going to get voted as a starter. There's no way. But as one of those reserves, I think he's in line to get that again this year. With these usage numbers and stuff, he's probably looking in the mid-20s for scoring points again, around 10 rebounds. He should be right there in the All-Star consideration. And he'll probably be the one player on the Jazz roster, again, on that All-Star ballot with the potential for actually being on the team.
Yeah, I felt the same thing. I got 4 points on this. Number one, what you said about Lauri, he's looking really good. He's playing like an all-star. It's 3 games in. I know that he's going to have some struggles. We know that, but he looks like the old player if he doesn't get hurt. Or a player from 2 seasons ago if he doesn't get hurt. So let's really hope for that. There's a second one. Walker, the way he's going right now, the numbers he's putting up, he's going to lead the league in offensive rebounding if he plays every game, and he's probably going to end up second in blocks. So I would throw him in there as a possibility too. He's really playing very good. So will he get the nod and make the team? Well, if the Jazz are bad, they're very unlikely to have 2 on there, but I think we have to put Walker in the watch for that too. In number 3, I'll say this. When I was a kid, the NBA All-Star game, there was nothing better. I loved that game. It was so good to see all these great guys playing together. It was a relatively competitive game, and I don't know what's happened to it. This is another thing in the NBA where parts of the game that we just love are hijacked by the management of the league. And it's really too bad because it was the premier all-star game of any of the sports.
Mm-hmm.
Football, they never play because they get hurt. I get that. Baseball, it's hard to watch baseball as it is, right? I just don't want to watch guys go spit and, do whatever. It's a very slow game. The NBA All-Star game was fantastic, and I don't know what's happened to it. So, but I agree with you that.
Yeah, it became a farce, and the whole weekend became, it became indistinguishable from all the other pro sports weekends. Like you said, baseball and football. It's unfortunate because it shouldn't be that. It just became a joke. So anyway, one quick thing. About tonight's game. So I'm not going to go through the box score, but I'm going to go through the minutes played for who got minutes to play tonight. And remember that it was an overtime game. So Lauri ended up with 45 minutes. Kyle Filipowski, 20 minutes. Walker Kessler, 35 minutes. Svi, 37 minutes. Keyonte George, 43 minutes. Ace Bailey, 13 minutes. Bryce, 11 and a half minutes. Taylor, 19 minutes. Walt, 23 minutes. Yusuf, 18 minutes. So it's I don't know. The minute distribution is very odd. To this point in the season, it's very odd. That's really the only thing I can say about it. And we know that's going to change because it has to change. But when does it change? I mean, there are still guys out who we know are going to get minutes. So is it going to change drastically when those guys come back, or is it going to change before that? And I mean, Cody Williams, DNP. So it's just very strange thus far.
Yeah, I don't think Hardy, and part is you have to look at the coach and what his goals are, versus what the organizational goals are. When you think about Oklahoma City and they're having those bad years to turn themselves into a championship, for the most part, if you go back and look at it, all they played is young players. Many of them didn't make the team, but they were trying to figure out what they had. And the other objective with that is, let's face it, they were trying to not win games because that's how the league is set up. For some reason, Hardy's playing Svi a lot. Is Svi a NBA quality player? Absolutely. There's no question he's an NBA quality. Is he going to be with our team when we get good? No, there's no chance. He had 3 assists again tonight. Svi is a good player. He's a bench player, but he's getting it over guys that honestly need to shoot themselves out of it, like Ace. Now, I'm not sure Ace should be an off guard. I don't really understand that either, but he Ace needs to get himself out of the funk he's in, right? So let him go out there and struggle, but let him shoot himself out of it. And so Svi was third in minutes, right?
Mm-hmm.
From your list.
Yeah.
So third in minutes, Svi. I don't really get that. And Bryce, on the other hand, who had some bad defensive time, was just, okay, you're down on the bench. Or, okay, Hardy, is he going to get a DNP the next 2 games? I don't know, because that's what you did to the guy last year. Okay, he had some defensive lapses, but some of the guys that you're playing have all defensive lapses. So I'm not sure I really understand that when we think that Bryce may be part of the future. We don't know that. But we're trying to see if he's going to be part of the future and if he's worth doing extended contract with. Because that's the other thing that's coming up is in the next few seasons, we have to make some decisions on some players. And the reality is there's going to be some guys we like that honestly, we decide we're not going to pay them. That's how this game works. It's a tough league. And we need to figure out who those guys are and which ones we're going to say, we like you. We want to see you in the NBA, but it's probably not going to be with the Utah Jazz.
Yeah, that's the. I mean, that's the other. That's the other part of this is like without seeing them in major minutes on the court in real games, and not just seeing them what they do in practice or whatever. It's really hard to make those evaluation decisions without seeing them in real games and for extended minutes. Oh, we'll see what happens. I mean, right now we see Keyonte for there's the third year of extended minutes. So we know what Keyonte is. Can his skills continue to develop? Yes, but Keyonte the person, Keyonte the competitor. We all have a feel for who that guy is right now because we've seen him so much. And it's really hard to change fundamentally who a person is, like their competitive nature and everything else. So you kind of get a feel for what a guy is in terms of that relatively early. The skills and everything else, those can improve over time. But, the competitive nature of a person is something you can kind of get a feel for rather quickly. So anyway, well, do you have anything else for any other comments for tonight?
I just want to comment on that because I've heard David Locke say this many times, where he compares Keyonte and some of the other young players to his kids. Well, my kid is doing this, my kid is doing that at this age. They're going to college as freshmen, whatever. I hear this all the time, and he'll justify the status of where they are based upon the age they are relative to his kids. Now, David Locke, I don't think ever played basketball. I can tell you something that when you play basketball, the guys that are very competitive, not because he also made this comment about Keyonte, he'll say like, well, he was the best player at every level that he's ever played at. I don't doubt that. You don't make it to the NBA unless you're so much better than everybody at the same level you are. I'm not doubting that. But I got to tell you that the guys they are competitive. Not only do they try to kill you offensively, they try to shut you down. If they see somebody else out there that's getting some accolades, you know what they try to do? They do everything they can to shut that guy down. And you and I have played against those type of guys. I mean, that's who they're going after. So you can't teach that. And honestly, Keyonte doesn't have that. He's never had it, and I don't think he ever will. Like you said, that's just something you have in you. And it's not your age. Because those guys like the Kobe and LeBron, they've had it since they were 7, right? They're out there trying to not only beat you, they're trying to crush you. Keyonte doesn't have that. I'm sorry, and you can't teach that.
Yeah, that's right. What was that old hot rod saying about Reggie Theus? He can score, but he can't hurt you. He always used to say that about Reggie Theus, completely dog him with that. I mean, he would say that about every time the Jazz played a Reggie Theus team. Well, Reggie Theus, he can score, but he can't hurt you. And that really is true in a lot of situations. There are a lot of guys in the NBA, a number of guys who fall into that category. Mm-hmm. And Keyonte the person might be an awesome guy, but some of the things that have happened on the court with him still really bug me. And to see him get 42 minutes, 43 minutes, some of it's really frustrating. And he played a decent game tonight too. So it's, I hope he improves. I mean, Will Hardy's obviously going to continue to play him. So, I hope there's some skill development where he can become an asset for the Jazz. That's what I hope.
Yeah. Well, at least Walt's getting 20 minutes a game because you were right about Walt. Walt's a player. That guy can play, and he didn't have his best night tonight, but the kid can play. So at least he's getting 20 minutes, not like 12 at Bryce. So at least we have give him Walt credit for that, even though the 34 whatever. But that's all I got.
All right. Well, we will call it a night then. And please, those watching on YouTube, please like, share, and subscribe. You can also follow us on X at Jazz Smack. And we will talk to everybody later.